Welcome to Money Mondays. My name is JB Bolvadin, founder and CEO of Tilray Success Solutions, the #1 real estate training company on the East Coast. And I want to bring you Money Mondays because, like most people, I started from the bottom and I want to help bring you up. So I brought some amazing people to the show. One of them today, it's a real special treat for you, Allon Avgi, good friend of mine, amazing entrepreneur. So Allon is 25 years old, and before we even get into it, I want to talk about something we were talking about off camera. You wrote a book before you were done with high school.
Yeah.
So let's even, before we get into all the real estate, you're already a best-selling author.
I wish I could hold that title. I was definitely an author, and I sold thousands of copies, but I never did it to be like a best-selling author or like make a lot of money. You know, I just had this idea, and I love bringing ideas to life, and I wanted to write a book before I was 21. So I said, what better time than the year, the summer before college. I called a friend right as we were graduating high school. We wrote every day for 4 months straight and published that book. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. It's called In the Mind of a Young Entrepreneur. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. So now I wanted to get that out of the way because I thought that was so cool. Because a lot of people don't even read books, bro. Yeah. So you're writing them, before you're done with high school.
I'm gonna write more.
Yeah.
But I just haven't gotten around to it. I have one idea. It's the business of homelessness. And I think I'm going to put that into words on paper and eventually put that out too.
Well, you already got my attention with the title.
Thanks.
So yeah, that's awesome. So right now, tell me a little bit about the business you're in.
So I'm in basically the investment business. I buy real estate, reposition, rent, and typically refinance. I hardly ever sell, just once in a while. I was hyper-focused on building a multifamily portfolio here in New York, and now I'm building a mixed-use multifamily warehousing, land bank-style portfolio. On top of that, I got a construction team, a management company now, and just been, growing both horizontally and vertically over the past 4 years.
That's so awesome. Now,
thanks.
What got you into the real estate space to begin with?
So I get this question all the time, and it's not as as exciting as everybody thinks. I had startups. I love technology and startup culture, and I had an e-commerce store when I was a kid, and that turned into something else, and I just kept losing money. I was really good at losing money, all in investments, of course, and I spent as a kid on stupid stuff when I was younger, got that out of my system, and I'm 20 years old in college, and I'm like, oh my God, man, I'm gonna have to get a job at this rate, and I really don't want to get a job. So I took hard money at 12% and 2 points, so 14% in a sense. And that's what kicked me off. I bought a house in Westbury, and that was the start of what I've built so far. It was great. That was 4.5 years ago.
So you did that out of just not wanting a job, and kind of it was an outlet at the time.
Yeah.
To go for money. So it wasn't like a play. It was like, all right, let me get some cash. Then all of a sudden you were like, hey, this is not that bad. Let me see what I can do with this.
Exactly. So I said, what's better than a rental property, right? My parents have 2 of them. I want 1 or 2, and then I could live off of that cash flow and start another startup.
Yeah.
And never stop starting businesses and hopefully growing one and becoming the behemoth I hope to be one day. And so I bought that one house. I'm like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. I should do another one. And I did another one. And people told me I was an idiot for borrowing money at those rates. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm an idiot, but I'm a young idiot, and I have time to make up for it if I mess up. So it's all good. And even older people, it's like you always have time. I did this all in 4 years. Yeah. So I was just not worried. I'm still not worried. I'm going to 10x what I'm doing. And it's like, whatever. Let's just do it, And when I took on that money, it was a lot of pressure. But the asset performed, and it worked out really well. The second asset performed, worked out really well. Third asset didn't perform, but I had the momentum behind me. And when you have Big Mo behind you, everything becomes easy.
Yeah. So, did you feel afraid when you did that first deal?
No.
And did you do a lot of research or education about it before you got into your first deal?
Not really. I was just like, I got to do it. It's so basic. That's how I look at everything. Why make it complicated? This is what it costs. This is what it'll bring me. Worst case scenario, I get screwed in New York for 6 months, and then I'll have to make up for it after 6 months. It's the worst that could happen,
Yeah. So you kind of went into it with a cool head already. Now, you're obviously, you're a lot smarter today than you were 4.5 years ago in the real estate game.
sure.
Did you learn all through experience, or did you actually say, hey, I need some education on this now?
So I learned most of it through experience, but I love to meet people like you, JB. So I reach out to people all the time, just like, Grant teaches and you teach.
Yeah.
And I met people that I want to be like, and as I got to know some people, I'm like, maybe I don't want to be like him, but I want to be like him, and I could take this from this guy and this from this guy and put it together, and maybe I could become like a hybrid.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I learned from people. I learned from my own mistakes, and I do love to read and learn. I just love to learn and then put it into play right away. So I guess a mix. It's been a blend of both.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now you're flipping houses. You got that third deal. You had momentum, but
I didn't
it
flip
perform.
those.
Those are all holds.
Yeah.
So you helped. Did you refi them out at the end of the day?
Funny enough, I was so I was so ignorant. I didn't know anything about real estate back then. I knew a little bit, but not much. So I didn't even know I could refinance those back then. I had to borrow hard money from private lenders because no banks were going to lend to me. I had no income back then, none of that good stuff today that I know all about. So I didn't refinance those. I actually took all the money I was making from that. I worked 3 side jobs. I did digital media for people. I went around knocking on like stores, like furniture stores, because I had a furniture business, and I did their social media for $1,000 a month. Put together 6 of those, and then 1 drink beverage that I knew the guy that owned the place was making 10 grand a month on the side. Took all 10 grand, put it into the real estate, the hard money. I took the rent, put it into the hard money, and I just paid it off as fast as I could. I didn't know any better, I just refinanced one of those like 2 weeks ago. I had it for 4 years.
Oh my God! So it wasn't a balloon at the end. They were giving you rate and term at 12%.
No, it was interest only, 12%, so 1% a month basically.
Yeah.
And I was just paying it down as fast as I could, like 10 grand a month. So I was paying P&I, not knowing that I didn't really have to.
Yeah, but these didn't have a balloon at the end, like most hard money loans.
No, it did, but I didn't even let it get there.
Oh, wow.
By month 10, I paid off the first one. He saw how I was doing. The guy that lent to me was an attorney, wonderful guy, still friends with him till this day. And he lent to me on the second one while we were already in the middle of the first. Because let's say I borrowed 150 grand on the first, I paid 70 grand down within 6-7 months.
Yeah.
And then, I did the second. I'm like, he won't lend to me on the third if I don't pay off the first. So I swiped my credit card to do the third, at 22% APR. That was crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore, thankfully, but I did it when I had to,
Yeah. And it made sense. Did you have to rehab these properties? Or did you buy them and just rent them?
I had to rehab everything.
Okay, so you're buying it, rehabbing it, managing that project, then you were renting it out. You're paying 12% on that money. And then you start a second one, then you get a third one. So do you flip at all?
Well, the third one, that's when I started refinancing with something called a sprout loan. High interest only. I was around 9%. I was refining these deals out, but it gave me 5 years. I'm like, man, 5 years is better than 1, so I'll take the 5 years.
And a few points less?
Yeah, and a few points less, still super high. And I just refied those out at like 4% now.
Yeah.
Now I'm like living the dream. But you got to get started somehow,
Yeah, so someone getting started right now that doesn't, because how was your credit back then?
I was a kid. I was 20, so.
And you didn't really have did you have income that they could verify? Or
no, I had business income, but no verification. I actually got audited back then, and I had to hire an accountant and settle. I knew nothing about accounting. I had to hire a full-time accountant when I was 19, and resolve that. So there was no way I was getting any institutional financing.
Gotcha. So at that point, they only base their lending off of equity.
Yeah.
And you had to have the down payment at the time, or did you have to have 30% down, 20% down? How did that?
I had 50 grand that I made really fast, and I put into that. Just like I said, the media, and I was selling things. I was drop shipping furniture all the time, and I was just making money wherever I could as fast as I could, so I could invest in real estate. And I was like, I have a time limit here. I'm going to graduate in a year and a half, and if I graduate, I'm not getting a job, and I'm not going to be poor.
Yeah.
Neither of those things are happening. So I got to figure my shit out now, and that's exactly what I did.
That's awesome. So now these are single family homes. So
multifamily.
The first 3 were multifamily?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. And then there were 2 family, 4 family?
Yeah, 2 to 3.
2 to 3? And did you always go into multifamily, or did you also do single family?
I stuck to multifamily. My head was set on multifamilies for 3 years, and that's all I did. I didn't shift focus whatsoever. After that, I got into land deals and mixed use now and single families. But back then, all my head on was on multifamily because I couldn't afford to have the tenant not pay me.
Right.
You know, and I wasn't thinking about just Section 8. I didn't know anything about Section 8 back then. I still only have like some Section 8, not many. But back then I was like, if one tenant doesn't pay me, at least the other one will cover the taxes, insurance, and the utilities if they're in my name. So I'll buy multifamilies.
Good. That's awesome. So these all start to grow into your portfolio. So year one of doing it, what did your portfolio look like?
I think my first year I had 2 properties because it was a half year. My second year I bought 4. And I was broke, man. Like I was putting every penny in. I was swiping my credit cards. I was poor, you know, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I grew up like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. This was like a different kind of poor. You know, this is investment poor.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of investment, so I'm investment heavy, rich, but I'm cash poor. So I didn't mind it. That was nothing for me, man. I grew up poor, and I think that was a huge advantage growing up the way we did. My parents worked like animals to make ends meet. And they opened furniture stores, and then in '08 we got crushed with the furniture business. So my parents bought a couple of houses, and those houses carried us on through life. You know, I had to pay for my own college, my own cars, all that stuff. That's a huge advantage at the end of the day. So when I was actually in the investment game and I had no money, I'm like, whatever, man. I didn't have money when I started.
You've never done that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't change, doesn't bother me. Till this day, I'm upset when I have money in my bank account. I like go into a frenzy. You've probably seen something like it, but like I get crazy when money's in my bank account. You know, it's got to get out. I need to get it out immediately.
Yeah, put it to work, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because just sitting there doing nothing for you.
Exactly.
So it's better to have no cash and have cash flow than have a ton of cash with no cash flow.
Yeah, I love cash flow, but
Yeah.
now I'm investing in so many diverse businesses. I get to diversify my portfolio, and it's great because now I get to live the way I wanted to as a kid. You know, like I get to invest in other businesses and do cool things and go cool places. I never did that when I was younger, you know, and now I get that chance. So it's like, it's all come together, and now it's just about growing all the time.
That's sick. I love that. So now as you're scaling this, you're 25 now. I mean, so you started this at a, relatively young age. Your mindset and the way you go about doing things is, it sounds like you're more afraid not to do than to do.
Yeah.
The biggest risk is not taking it. That's what I'm
Well
saying.
said.
Yeah. So that's, and I think, and I admire that a lot about you. And I think that what you're doing and where you're going is really incredible. And I want to talk about diversity for a second, because for some people watching, there's this new trend. So there's this thing about diversifying your portfolio, whether we're talking about stocks or whether we're talking about real estate. And then in the real estate game, the last couple of years, some bigger investors don't like diversification. They like their Section 8s, or they like their multifamily only, or they like their medical buildings only, or their gas station properties only. And you want to and you're diversifying. What would you say to someone that's saying that diversification is dangerous? It's easier to stay in that one lane that you know or master in.
If somebody told me that, I'd tell them you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's basically my answer. You're totally wrong. I mean, look at all the biggest players in the game. Fairfield, Vornado, all those big boys. Yeah, they have their niche, right? They focus on like apartment complexes. Let's take Fairfield for an example.
Yeah.
But there came a point where they decided, okay, we're dominating this market. Let's move into another one, office medical use, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if Fairfield goes into industrial soon enough. They don't do new constructions. They built only 1,000 units, as they say, only in Long Island, but they've diversified. So even going into another market is diversifying. You know, like you're in Long Island, you go into the boroughs. That's a new market. You know, that's completely diversifying. But you're still in that apartment or residential game, right? So what's next? You have to diversify. Because if you don't, all your eggs are in one single basket. And that's okay for a certain amount of time, but as you grow, it's like, why not? Right? I'm hyper-focused on multifamily. I understand multifamily better than anyone. Mixed use is my new asset class. Why not blend in a few stores, warehouses, offices while still having apartments, hypothetically?
Right.
Right? And it's working out for me. You know, I went into land. I don't like land. It's not for me. It's for a lot of people. I know people that do so well in the land game and new construction, but it's not for me. So I've diversified, I've gotten into it, I'm gonna do really well with that project, but now if I ever get into it again, I'm gonna do it with a strategic partner. Because the numbers are the numbers, and they have that competitive advantage over me. So I'm gonna partner with them, and I'll continue to diversify and grow and focus on what I love to do, just to continue growing and climbing up that ladder.
Is there a proper timing for diversification? Like when someone's just getting started, should they think wide or should they think more centric?
When they're getting started, centric. Everything has to be centric. In my eyes, I'm still getting started. You know, to me, it's like I'm diversifying my asset class, but I'm not getting into crazy things. You know, like real estate's real estate.
Yeah.
My end goal, I'm not even flipping. I'm flipping a few houses, not by choice, just because it makes more sense. Most of the stuff I buy is with the vision to keep it forever.
Yeah.
So I'm hyper-focused. You know, I'm building a rental portfolio. The asset class, that's just butter. You know, it's like I'm doing some mixed use, some industrial. You know, I would like to get into office medical, but I haven't found that right deal. And then when I do, I'll probably widen my, my criteria, my buy cry. So let's see when it gets there, you know?
That's awesome. So what does your company look like 10 years from now? What's your vision?
I just try and think till the end of the day, you know? I'm always just trying to figure out how much more I could do during the day to get that much farther.
Yeah.
10 years from now, I'd love to have a massive rental portfolio and just continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, just continue growing and buying more and doing more and buying, you know, getting into more businesses and helping people. I love helping people and putting out this content. So in 10 years, I'd love to have like a massive, massive portfolio of just good real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what really inspired me is one of my mentors, Grant Cardone, who's coming to this conference that we're putting together, the Entrepreneur Conference on September 14th. He was talking about his real estate portfolio and how he generates $16 million a month in passive income.
Wow.
And that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's something they started working on only 20 years ago.
Wow.
He got started around like 45 in doing this. And I was like, wow, you know, this is something where a lot of people need to take the time to educate on it. So I get really excited and inspired when you tell me you started basically at 20 and where you're going, your trajectory is, because, you know, the bandwidth you have and how you're on ground level and already getting more traction than most investors are, and you have a very strong desire to succeed, but you're also very open-minded to what needs to be done to get it done. I'm really excited to see what your future is going to look like, because I think it's going to be very, very bright in this. And I think it's going to be, you know, you're going to be a badass. I mean, I know you now, but I think a lot of people who are watching need to know you, because it's a good opportunity to really get a chance to pick your brain now.
Wow.
Down the road.
That was really nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's the truth. It's the truth. I really do. I think what you're doing is great. And I think you just keep your head down and you run. And I think that's a great way to do it.
Yep.
What I want to do is have you, you know, because you know I'm in the coaching business, right? So I want your help. I want you to be a coach for the next couple of minutes. I want to ask you a few questions, because I want us, mainly you actually, in this segment, to help coach someone with their first deal.
Okay.
They're in a situation, their credit's banged up or doesn't have enough power behind it to go get real money, like regular money, conventional money. They're not too sure what to do, but they know they want to get into real estate. How do they go about finding that deal, financing that deal, and then putting it all together and then monetizing on it?
Okay. First, you have to source the right deal, and the numbers are the numbers at the end of the day. Nothing's too good to be true, and if it does seem too good to be true, there's probably some underlying issue that you're going to have to resolve, and you factor that in based on estimates. You have to do some research, like what could that underlying issue be, maybe an environmental issue, and recognize what those costs are going to be. Everything is really set in stone in real estate. A price is a price, costs are costs. And the rent is going to be the rent. You can't be astronomically crazy, and you don't want to be over conservative, because you're going to kill every single deal. So first, you source the right deal. You could source the right deal through brokers, you know, real estate agents all around your market. This goes for anywhere: Long Island, Memphis, Detroit, LA. Doesn't matter where. There's brokers and real estate agents everywhere. The MLS, we all have our own MLS. There's wholesalers. That's become the new trend. Right, wholesaling. So there's tons of them, and they find good deals. These wholesalers know how to find deals. I'm talking to guys like my boy Marlon. Guy knows how to find deals. And they're just cold calling. You could cold call and door knock yourself, but you don't have to, because you could find these deals on the MLS if you like to. You could send out mailers, you could do all that good stuff. But once you find that right deal, you have to pounce on it. Because in my eyes, if you don't, I will. Right. You know, when I see a deal and I want it now, if I have to pay a little bit more, I want it now, I'll pay. You know, if you don't, I will. Think about it that way. Somebody's always right behind you, ready to take it from you. So that's how I think. That's what I would relay the message to somebody just getting started. You find that right deal, don't be scared to lock it up. because your down payment is all that you could really lose at the end of the day, your down payment and legal costs.
Yeah.
That's all you can really lose if you don't follow through. So first, you find the right property through one of those sources that we just described. You put that down payment, and then you figure out the rest. That's what I did. That's what I still do till this day. I just went into contract on multiple pretty big deals, big for me at least. And that's exactly how I did it. I put the down payment, now I'm figuring it out. And you know what? What's the worst that happens? I lose that down payment, which is not going to happen. I will die before I lose that down payment and don't follow through on those deals. But let's hypothetically say it did happen, then that's the worst that happens. I lose like $250,000. You know, it's not gonna happen. You know, I always follow through, and I'm going to. But these are sick deals now, and now I'm leveling up. You know, I'm going into bigger game. So that's what I suggest to other people. Rome wasn't built in a day, stone by stone. So you start with that first deal, you find it through one of those sources, you put that down payment, you cannot be scared, and you figure out the rest thereafter. If you'd like to get prepared before you actually do that deal, you get a pre-approval letter or something like that from a bank, or you find the right hard money lender. But there isn't a specific order to those things. You know, first you need to find the deal and go into contract. Then you buy time if you need it. You know, because there's those due diligence periods, there's the actual closing period, there's TOE, time is of the essence closing. You'd rather not get there. You'd rather have, you know, once you get under contract, you figure it out and you focus. Now it comes to closing time, whether you get a mortgage or hard money, right? You close on this property and you begin immediately. There's no time to lose. If you have to evict, you evict. If you have to pay the tenants off, you pay them off. Do your math and figure out how long it's going to take you to get them out, especially during COVID time. I just paid a tenant $15,000 to get out. Pre-COVID,
Wow.
Never in my life would I do that. I tell her, I'm evicting you, go to hell, and if you have a problem, ruin the place. Doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna renovate it anyway, make it much nicer. Because I'm great to tenants, but some of them, man, they just wanna hurt you. You know, so prior to that, I'd give them a letter, how much the rent's going up, or whether it's staying the same. I've let tenants stay for 2 years on the same rent. You know, so I'd give them a letter, tell them this is the new rent, I'd love for you to stay, I'm gonna help you, no matter the color, the shape, size, anything, never care about that. All I care about is the money. I want you to stay, I'm gonna help you, here's all the forms you need. We repair things within a 24-hour period. My turnover rate on maintenance and repairs is 24 hours, like that. That makes me a superior landlord on the small multifamily here in Long Island. Gives me a great edge. Tenants refer their friends and family all the time. So you immediately get into it, you do your math, right? If it's cheaper to pay a tenant to leave, swallow that pill. There's no ego here. This is all business. Swallow that pill, pay the tenant to leave, and keep moving. You renovate if you have to. Do whatever you have to do to turn it over. Rent out the place and refinance if you could get your equity out. If you can't, you have to understand that that's what you're getting into. Your cash on cash is what it is, and the money flows in. There's not much more to it. You know, the money flows in. Figure out how to do your next deal. If you have to raise money, go out and raise money. Don't be equity hungry, because you're just getting started, right? That's our target market, the people just getting into it. So you're just getting started. What do you need all the equity for? This is a learning lesson for you. My first new development project, I have 30% of. If I wanted to be greedy, could I have gotten 50%? Probably. But would I have gotten the deal? Probably not.
Right.
So I got 30% on a $20 million new development deal. You know, it's worth it, pays, it's a big deal for me, and I'm learning so much, it's blowing my mind. So now when I do joint ventures with other people, I'll know the ins and outs. Nobody's gonna fool me, you know, and if they do, we'll never work together again, and they'll get me on something small. But in the hindsight, like the big stuff, I know now, you know, I know better. So get started, take on investors if you have to, don't be too equity hungry, just get the ball rolling. Because once that ball rolls and it starts building and going down that hill faster and faster, that's when you become a beast. The momentum gets behind you and nothing can stop you. You'll run through walls. That's really it, start to finish on buying a new rental property.
That's awesome. I have one follow-up question to that.
Shoot.
How does someone raise the money?
There's so many ways.
Steps, like a few simple steps for someone maybe who's not as experienced or.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll loop into that, something that I also think is funny. People ask me all the time, how do you meet your investors? How do you meet your investors? I'm sitting in a pool with this guy, you know, he's got 200 grand in the bank, he wants to get into real estate, a great guy, he works at a bank, let's say, saved up 200 grand. He's telling me, how do you meet your investors? I'm like, we're in the pool right now. you know?
Yeah.
You're gonna be my investor. That's it, I'm sitting with you, we're talking. This is literally how I'm meeting my investor. You know, you have 200 grand in the bank, you wanna put it into a property, you don't know how, you have me, you're gonna get plenty of upside. Why wouldn't you invest with me? You know, and it's like mind-blowing to people. Like, the person you're sitting with can be your investor. You know, you'll invest with me eventually, JB. When I open a small syndicate of some sort of fund and you could see good returns, why wouldn't you put 10 grand in?
Makes sense, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna be my investor. I'm sitting with you right now.
You heard it. I'm investing.
That's it.
With Allon. Yeah.
And so are you. So it's that easy. It's like you could go out and meet people and you gotta figure it out. So people are like, how do you figure it out? What do you give them?
Yeah.
Right? I don't wanna get fooled. I don't wanna give too much, too little. It's like, relax. Chill. Smoke some weed if you have to. Chill. It's all fine. It's all easy. It's like, what do they want? What are their goals? You know, I've raised $5 million from one person based on acknowledging his goals and bringing it to life. You know? So that person wanted rental properties. Perfect. That's what I specialize in. I wanted 50%. He was okay with 50%. Our deal was he gets back all his money first, a certain amount of interest, and I don't charge any fees. I don't charge any fees at all, zero. I make $0. I put in tons of sweat equity, put in a few bucks, and money on things that, you know, he doesn't have to take part in, like say construction. So I put up the construction, he puts up the acquisition costs. Let's assume it's a small deal. Let's say a $100,000 deal. Somebody in Milwaukee's watching this right now or listening. They want to buy a $100,000 property, they need all cash to do it. They've got 20 grand. It's gonna cost $10,000 in construction. Why can't you go out to 5 friends, right? Raise $20,000 each from your 5 friends from college, which they probably have or their parents have. Give everybody, I don't know, 15% each, right? They have 15% each, or let's say 10%, let's make the math easy. They have 10%, there's 5 people, they have 50% of the project, you have 50% of the project, and you put up the construction money. So you're putting up half of what they're putting up, and you get to keep half of the entire project. You do all the work, you refinance, and you give them their money back first. That shows good character, goodwill, and they're gonna wanna reinvest with you. So you refinance, you give them their money back first, because now you know the steps and procedures to get this deal done. We just walked through it. And that's it, you got 50% of the upside for the rest of your life. Move on to another one. So you could go out, 5 people, you know, 6, 7, 8 people, 1 person, could be anybody. Your uncle, your aunt, your friends from college, your friends from high school, just people you met in the street or at the bank, and they can invest with you any amount. It could be nominal. And at that point, you roll that into whatever deal and you keep going. If you don't need it, you get a mortgage. You know, if you don't need the mortgage, you do it by yourself. I like to do deals on my own first before I loop people in. Like my first deal, I borrowed at 14%. If that doesn't show confidence in the deal, I don't know what does.
Right.
You know, so when I showed my first investor was a friend. We became friends. He was a mentor of mine. I showed him what I was doing. He was in a totally different field than me. I was like, this is what I'm doing. Every day I'm borrowing this kind of money. These are how the deals look. These are the numbers. He's like, holy shit, you're borrowing money at 14%? I'm like, I have no choice. You know, I'm 21 now.
Yeah.
I've got like 5 properties and I don't have my own money. I'm still swiping my credit card for the construction materials and figuring out how to pay that over time, you know? And he goes, how much do you need to do a few more deals? I said, I need $1 million. He's like, I'll give you $1 million. Let's put together a few pieces of paper. We'll sign it, get started. This is how we'll do the deal. Let's do it, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Boom. That was my first investor.
That's sick. So, I mean, bottom line, it comes down, well, I also like, you know, it goes down to something that we teach here all the time, which is your network is your net worth. And you made sure you mentioned your education process. You called people that you thought maybe, hey, I want to take some pages out of their book. You had a mentor that you connected with, that, you know, also you became friends with and became an investor with. That he became an investor with you.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to, you know, you're not really in a real estate business, you're in a people business. That's what gets you to real estate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what's really, it's going to come down to at the end of the day. Dude, this is really awesome. I could talk to you for a long time about it, but I really hope a lot of people have gotten to know who you are. If you're in the real estate industry, a wholesaler, or just looking to get rid of your property, you know the guy to call. We're going to put you here. Where can they follow you, Allon?
Allon Avgi on Instagram, Allon Avgi across all platforms, ALLONAVGI. I post a lot of content. I just love to spread and share good information.
That's awesome. So I started this podcast with one thing in mind, to help people scale their business. I want you to know as you grow your business, you're not alone in your struggle and you're more close to success than you think. So until then, stay tuned to Money Mondays because we're going to be with you every step of the way in your journey of making it.